Hello? No, I gotta call you back. I'm doing a show. Okay, bye. Sorry, friend calling me. Anyhow, welcome to a brand new episode of Gadget Nation and me, Adam Carruthers, and of course, as usual, plenty in store for you today. A bit of some games, a bit of news, and of course, some of the latest gadgets for you out there, including a heavy focus on dual SIM card phones, which I'm sure will interest many people out there, including myself. So, enough chat. Let's just see exactly what we have in store.
Microsoft has revealed the new update for Xbox One. Among it is a refreshed activity feed, support for mobile purchases, and the update of the Blu-ray Player app to enable 3D Blu-ray functionality on the Xbox One. Western Digital has announced the expansion of its award-winning SATA hard drives, the WD Red and Red Pro. Optimized for power and performance, Western Digital features a larger capacity, up to 6 TB, and the latest generation of NASWare technology.
I travel a lot, quite a lot actually, predominantly for work. So supposing I go to another country and I'm there for more than a week, then chances are I'm going to get another SIM card. So I will have one phone with my Malaysian number and another phone with a temporary number. It's a real hindrance. However, that's where dual SIM card phones come into play. They can be an absolute lifesaver and obviously a massive, massive help. So we've got two entry-level phones to show you, one from Nokia, one from Huawei, which could very well suit your purposes, not just for dual SIM card phones, but also for something very cheap, but offering quite a lot. So, we have two phones here. Now, obviously, they're not the highest end phones and it's stressed by its price point. I mean, we've got one phone from Nokia, which is a shade under 550 ringgit, and the other one from Huawei is even cheaper, but we'll focus on the Huawei phone shortly. Let's turn our attention to the one which is slightly smaller, which is this from Nokia. Very, very nifty little phone. I'm gonna start off by showing you exactly what it is on the outside. So as you can see, it's very basic. Now, if you've used a Nokia Windows phone recently, you would know very well that there tends to be a dedicated camera button. They've done away with that now. So basically all you have here is the power on and off, and of course the volume rocker. Very basic. And then on top, it's just a headphone jack. And literally that's about it, apart from the USB point right there, which obviously you can connect to your computer and to charge the device. So pretty nifty. Even on the front, the capacitive buttons are gone, as you can see right there. So the other thing I do want to show you is the fact that you can pop open and change the case. Now there's a whole variety of colors. We have the black one here, but obviously you can go out and purchase some of the other ones. There's a whole variety like red, etc., yellow, and it's pretty cool. Now, what's interesting about this phone is the fact that it is dual SIM. As you can see right there, SIM 1 and SIM 2. Slot it in, you're good to go. Now obviously this is fantastic for those that tend to travel, will be going from point A to point B, and do it on a regular basis. So supposing you do a lot of work in Singapore or Indonesia or Thailand, you can have your one number here and your one number there, and it's excellent. Now you may have just noticed there, if you're sharp enough, there's a micro SD slot as well. So pop in whatever extra storage that you might need right into there. And obviously the case will just easily slot back on. In case you're wondering, it's a matte finish, which is rather nifty. It's not too shabby, and I quite like having the matte feeling in my hand. There's always something a little bit classy about it. Now, what about the actual inside, so? It's pretty nice. I mean, the screen itself, it's not exactly very vibrant, but it's pretty nifty. I mean, the viewing angles aren't too great either, but as you can see right there, it will certainly do the job. And as you scroll up, you can see what's very familiar if you've ever seen a Windows Phone device. Now, this is running on 8.1 as well, so obviously we finally now have the ability to pull down and see all your notifications, and then everything up here as well, like your Wi-Fi and your camera, your Bluetooth, which obviously was something needed in terms of the software, but I'm not really here to talk about the software, so we're not going to get too much into that. Now, inside, in the actual device, it's a 1.2 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, so it's not too bad. It's got about half a GB of RAM, a 512. So obviously, like I mentioned, the price point itself obviously is going to reflect on the actual specs of this. In case you're wondering, Nokia, of course, very famous now for their cameras. I mean, the 1020 is amazing for one thing. This is a 5 megapixel camera, so it should be able to do a semi-decent job at least of taking some semi-okay shots. But again, just remember how much you're actually paying for this device. I have to say, it's very nifty. It's not too big. It's about 4.5 inches, the screen itself, so comparable more to the iPhone than anything else. So let's move on to something which is a little bit bigger. This is the Huawei Honor 3C, and I have to say, for its price, it is a fantastic device. It offers a lot, and I do mean a lot, and it's 499 ringgit as well. I think that is fantastic. So firstly, let's just take a look at everything on the outside. So this is a slightly bigger screen than the Nokia. It's about 5 inches, 1280 by 720 pixels as well resolution. So obviously very bright. If I just switch it on, you can actually see for yourself. See, it's a lot brighter than what we saw from the Nokia, a lot more crystal-like, a lot more vibrant, which obviously is a big deal. Now, taking a look elsewhere, the left side of the phone has absolutely nothing on it. On the underside, we just have, on the side, it's not in the middle I should add, the charge point right there, the USB. And over here, actually the outlay is very similar to what we just saw from Nokia, with a power button and the volume rocker. And also at the top, obviously, we have the headphone jack just there. Now, very similar also to Nokia in that you can pop open the cover. It's a lot easier, feels a little bit flimsy compared to that. I like the matte finish. This is a bit more of a shiny, plasticky feel about it. But you can see underneath here, the 2300 mAh battery, very large, should get you enough power to last through most of the day, bearing in mind it's not the biggest screen out there, so all things to consider. As you can see, it's also dual SIM, pop right there. So like I mentioned earlier on, if you're traveling, etc., it does a fantastic job. And we've also got the micro SD slot there. So there's already a card inside. And if we just pop everything back on, then it's good to go. So what about the internal aspect of this bad boy right here? So the question is, why am I so impressed with what's inside this? Firstly, it's quad-core, and you have to remember the price point is below 500 ringgit. Quad-core, it's the cheapest one you'll get for that price as well. It's the 1.3 gigahertz MediaTek processor inside. And on top of that, the RAM, you'd expect something like 512, just like the Nokia, but no! Huawei has said, let's throw in 2 GB of RAM, which is fantastic, and again, less than 500 ringgit. Everything else about it, here, the camera, it's using some of the Sony technology, the backlit CMOS sensor. It's 8 megapixels as well, so obviously it trumps that in my opinion. I know it's not all about megapixels, but the camera on this just does a slightly better job. If you're really into selfies, which are all the rage, at the front here, it's selfie cam. 5 megapixels, very decent as well. Similar to some of the other high-end phones out there, like the HTC One, their flagship device has a 5 megapixel camera on the front as well, and it does a fantastic job if you're really into selfies and sticking them up on Instagram, etc. As for the software, slightly dated, 4.2.2, Jelly Bean, and it's skinned slightly with something from Huawei as well. One thing that's interesting of note is that, well, there's no app drawer like we've seen from all the other Android phones. So more like iOS, everything will just come up onto your home screens itself and you just scroll through till you find what you want. So something a little bit different in that aspect. There's a lot of bells and whistles thrown in. You can shoot video in full HD, and it does a very, very capable job. It uses the Sony camera technology, which I think is fantastic. We've seen stuff like the Z2. A great job, really, really good job. And the aperture and everything all slots nicely together in this device. If I had to choose which one I think is a better dual SIM card phone, okay, it's a bit hard to say because this is full-on Android, although a little bit dated, the Huawei. However, bearing in mind that it's actually cheaper than Nokia, bearing in mind it's got that 2 GB of RAM. Okay, it might only have 8 GB of storage internally, but you can also put in the micro SD, similar to Nokia as well. But the camera is a little bit better as well, and I like something perhaps a little bit bigger in my hands, but that's more of a personal preference than anything else, so I can't judge it. But just the fact that it's about 50 ringgit, give or take, cheaper than the Nokia, and it's got a little bit more power inside, I would have to opt for this. But by all means, if you're a fan of Nokia, this is very worthy. It's one of their entry-level models as well, obviously, but it does a fantastic bang-up job as well. So if you're looking for some dual SIM card phones, do check these out in the market. They can do a very, very good job.